Hello everyone. Welcome to the Faculty of Arts Prep Week session on an introduction to the social sciences. This session is for students who are entering the Faculty of Arts this fall, who'd like to learn more about what you can study in arts, what to expect in the Faculty of Arts, and resources and supports available for new students. So if that's where you want to be this afternoon, you're in the right place. I'd like to thank you for joining us today. My name is Amber Osterman and I do communications for the Faculty of Arts. I'm going to be your host for this session, and I also want to make everyone aware that this session is being recorded. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge that although we are together virtually, the U of M campuses are located on the original lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that were made on these territories. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. So again, welcome to today's session. We're so very happy that you've chosen the Faculty of Arts for your education. We have plenty to cover today. You can see the agenda here on the screen. Today you're going to meet Dr. Heidi Marks. She's an Associate Dean in the Faculty of Arts and a Professor of Religion. Frank Cormier is an instructor and the head of the Sociology and Criminology Department. Frank gave us a wave. Dr. Terry Jansen is from Linguistics. And Dr. Royce Coop joins us from Political Studies. If you have a question during the session, please use the Q&A function from Zoom to ask it. We're going to open up a time for questions at the very end of the session. So we're not using the chat function like you would in a normal meeting, but in the webinar we use the Q&A function. We often find that many questions that students have are usually answered during the presentation. So please, if you can, hold on to your questions to the end and we'll be sure to answer everything before we finish off. Throughout the presentation, I would like to encourage you to take screenshots of any of the slides you'd like. We have web addresses listed, course names and course numbers throughout the presentation, and you might like to refer to those later. Also, again, remember we are recording the session and it will be available in a day or so on umanitoba.ca and in UMLearn if you'd like to go back and refer to anything a second time. I'd now like to turn it over to Dr. Heidi Marks, who's going to tell us a bit more about what the term arts means and what you can study in the Faculty of Arts. Dr. Marks?
Thank you, Amber. As Amber said, welcome to the Faculty of Arts. You've made the right choice to study with us. What is arts? What does an arts education even mean? Arts refers to the liberal arts as opposed to the fine arts, like painting, music, pottery, and so forth. It's a term which originated in the educational systems of the ancient classical Greek and Latin worlds. The liberal arts referred to a handful of subjects that were prepared for mostly elite men at the time, not just for certain jobs, but for all of life, for the art of living well. In the medieval European university, there were 7 liberal arts: grammar, rhetoric, logic, geometry, arithmetic, music, and astronomy. These were the subjects that any educated person, still mostly men, would learn about before turning to more specific professional training as doctors or lawyers or theologians. Although we are a long way from the ancient world or the Middle Ages, some of these subjects are still taught in faculties of arts today. But let's talk more about arts today and the arts, and arts at the University of Manitoba. Well, first, we can tell you that you've chosen a popular place. Over 4,400 undergraduate students and about 500 graduate students have made this same choice. But what they are studying varies greatly. We hope you find your calling here. We have 26 areas of study to choose from and over 75 introductory level courses that will be offered this coming year. Beyond the classroom, we offer many opportunities for students to get involved in something that interests them. We have 4 departments that offer co-op programs and numerous travel and exchange opportunities for when those start up again. There are student groups to join and research positions to fill. Even while we are remote, you will still have access to professors and student advisors who can help guide you along the way, and you can be part of activities that give you the chance to experience your university education in a unique way. The Faculty of Arts offers 4 different Bachelor of Arts degree programs: the BA General, Advanced, and Honors, as well as the BA Integrated Studies. And that is primarily for people already in the workforce who wish to go back to university to complete a degree. So you might want to tell your parents or even your grandparents about that. Which degree you choose will depend on what you'd like to study and your career or future educational plans for pre-professional study or graduate studies. Once you've taken some courses and gotten more of a feel for your chosen area of study, you may also decide to change which degree path you're on. And that is just fine. I did that 3 times in my undergraduate myself. I started in psychology, then I went to theater, discovered I couldn't act, and then went to the philosophy department where I found my final home. You don't have to lock in before you even start, in other words. Now, what do we study in the Faculty of Arts? Well, it's a very large faculty with many interesting choices. On this slide, you can see all the areas of study we offer for your major or minor. You may already have an idea of what you'd like to focus on, or you may not. Perhaps you've registered for a variety of courses from different areas to help you choose your future major. That's great. Many students decide what to major in after their first year of study, and that's a good way to go, but you don't want to wait too long to declare a major, because at a certain point it will affect your ability to register in future years. Keep in mind that up to 60% of students graduate from a different program than the one they started in, and up to 25% of students attempt 3 or more programs during their degree. What I'm trying to say is that your first year is an introduction. It's a year of discovery. Even if you have a clear focus or goal in mind, we encourage you to listen and learn to areas we are profiling this week. Perhaps you will at least get ideas for a minor or for your elective courses. When you are here at the Faculty of Arts, you will gain many employable and transferable skills, power skills as they're called. At a high level, an arts education will help you to broaden your mind, teach you how to gather facts, interpret information, and make informed decisions. Will also help you to learn different viewpoints, and that there's usually not one right answer to a problem. You will acquire the skills sought by today's employers, like the ones we've listed on this slide. We're not a trade school. What we offer is a skills-based education that helps to prepare you for many possible future careers. More than that, and often more importantly than that, we can help you become a better and more fulfilled human being by teaching you how to be a better friend, family member, parent, partner, citizen, and human being. A good life doesn't just happen, and it certainly won't happen if we don't even take time to think about what that means. And a good life is only partially linked to good employment, but that is undoubtedly important. A good life is the result of deliberate or about the decision-making processes that can assist you to make better choices in all areas of your life. So what to expect? Well, this fall is going to be a little bit different. You've been hearing about this for a while now, but when classes start next week, what can you really expect? Your experience is going to look more like the photo on the left than the one on the right. There will be online classes using tools like Zoom versus packed lecture halls holding over 200 students at a time. You'll set up a study station at home instead of carrying all your belongings to campus for an all-day cram session in the library with your friends. You'll eat lunch in your kitchen or maybe your back porch for September at least, instead of in the quad. But there will also be a lot of similarities to past years. The expectations of your instructors for quality work submitted on time will be the same. So will the independent nature of university studies versus what you were used to in high school. Finally, the connections you'll make with classmates because of your shared interests and goals will hopefully be the same too. We hope to welcome you to campus sometime soon, maybe January, maybe later. But until then, the university is ready to support all students with your education and your overall university experience. To that end, we've compiled some remote learning tips for you. This is to help you prepare for what's coming next week. All courses in the Faculty of Arts will be taught via remote learning for fall term 2020. If you register for a 6 credit hour course that spans September to April, that course will begin and end remotely. It won't become in person in January if we do happen to get back on campus. All courses will be accessible through the University of Manitoba's learning management system called Learn. Hopefully you've been using this already this summer to complete your summer online orientation training called Essentials, and that will help you get used to the system. To prepare for classes, we encourage you to prep your work area. Get your headphones and computer ready. Have a space where you can spread out your textbook readings, computer, and writing materials. Read the course syllabus so you know what is due, when it's due, and how it will be marked. Can't emphasize this enough. The course outline is your roadmap to your courses. And the first answer you'll probably hear from your professor when you ask a question is, check out the course outline. You should expect a mix of live classes and recorded lectures that you can go back and review, and some supplementary videos and readings. Many arts classes have a participation component for marks, and we can still do this online with breakout rooms, polls, chats, and other unique tools your professors are discovering. So be ready to jump in and participate. Testing will also be done online, and this can include anything from multiple choice, calculations, short answers, and essays. All the things you'd be tested on paper in person, but now online. Your instructors will provide all the information in advance so you are ready and prepared. While we're talking about online tests and other assessments, I want to remind you of something that you've learned about already in Essentials, namely the importance of academic integrity. I am the person in arts who is in charge of dealing with most cases of academic dishonesty, whether that be plagiarism, cheating, personation, purchase papers, or inappropriate collaboration. You may find yourself more tempted to engage in this behavior in an online setting, and you may think that there are more opportunities to do so, but the consequences are not worth it. You can be suspended for years from taking classes at the University of Manitoba. I strongly urge you to familiarize yourself with the university policies around this issue and ensure that you follow them. Traditionally, we encourage students to get to know their instructors. Visit during office hours, talk to them after class, and you can also do these things remotely. There will still be office hours and ways to connect with your instructor when you have questions. They're not going to answer your DM at 2 in the morning, but they are there to support you during regular office hours, and they'll be responsive via email as well. If you're unsure of when their office hours are, please ask them. Speaking of which, ask questions early. Don't wait until the day before the exam. Make sure you connect with fellow students as well, and also with teaching assistants and professors throughout the term to stay on top of the material. While I encourage you to make an effort to get to know your instructors, I also want to remind you of the importance of being patient and respectful in your communication with them and also with your fellow students. There is a whole session this week on respectful digital conduct, and I would strongly urge you to participate in that in order to get through this fall, this unprecedented and strange fall together. We need to be kind, generous, and gentle with one another. You'll find instructors have varying levels of comfort with technology. Some will use more tools than others, and that's fine. The important part is not how flashy it is, but are you able to get the information you need to learn the material? And remember, don't use your personal email address, your Gmail, Shaw, Hotmail accounts. You must use your myumanitoba.ca email to communicate with professors and with university staff. Check this email often for information on deadlines and important announcements from both the university and arts specifically. Even though we aren't together in person, we've learned over the past few months that we can still build community together. Many student groups will still be running virtually. You can build or join online study groups with fellow students. You can follow social media for reminders to learn about online events and to stay ahead of the game. The Academic Learning Center has online workshops, tutors, and more to help you through your studies. Don't be afraid to use their services. They are here for all students, and they employ wonderful people to help you. And don't forget, the Active Living Center is open. You can book an appointment to use the gym, stay active, and take the opportunity to get away every once in a while from the home desk you've set up for yourself. There are so many people wanting to help. Please reach out and you'll find someone who can connect you to the right person for each question you have. Now we'll spend some time digging a little deeper into some of the programs we offer. Today I want to talk about the social sciences. What are they, and what areas of study do they include? Social science is the scientific study of societies and the relationships among individuals in these societies. And that's a really broad general definition, and there's lots of variety when you start digging deeper. These sciences grew out of both the humanities and the natural sciences, both. And sometimes the boundaries between all three, humanities, social sciences, natural sciences, can get a little blurry. Social scientists ask questions about human beings and groups that are different from the questions that philosophers and historians ask about the same. And their approach to finding answers are in some ways similar to the ways natural scientists go about investigating phenomena in the natural world. One way to think about it is that they take a more empirical approach to their studies. In other words, they rely more directly on observation. Today, the word scientific certainly means different things to different social scientists. Some social scientists still think of their methods as being very close to that of the natural sciences, like biology, chemistry, physics, computer science, and so forth. You've all learned about the scientific method in high school, where you make an observation, you ask a question, you form a hypothesis, you make a prediction. Based on the hypothesis, you test the prediction, and then you use the results to make more hypotheses or predictions. That's how some social scientists work in our faculty, but other social scientists think that their methods should be and are unique to their disciplines. So for instance, some anthropologists will become part of a community to try to understand how things work in a particular group of humans and take lots of notes and write up their reflections and observations. Some political scientists study the history of policy or political institutions. Some may also study political philosophy. So there is a lot of variation in approach and method across the social sciences. There are so many exciting things to study in the social sciences in the Faculty of Arts. And in a moment, you'll hear more about the three departments shown here in blue: linguistics, political studies, and sociology and criminology. But this is a list of all the social science departments found in arts. Let me give you just a quick sampling of some exciting topics that get studied in these departments. In anthropology, you can study anything from cultures from around the world today to the bones of ancient humans, including those that some members of the department dig up themselves on archaeological projects. We even 3D print replicas of some of these bones to do further studies on them. You can study Indigenous governance systems in political studies, but you can also study the ongoing interactions between Indigenous groups and the law in Canada and around the world in the Sociology and Criminology department. You can learn about languages in the Linguistics department, including languages that are at risk of disappearing from the face of the earth, if not for the critical interventions of linguists working with language activists. In psychology, you can learn all about how faulty your memory really is. It's a dismaying fact. And you can also learn how to help other people deal with trauma or how to raise happy children. The possibilities for studying fascinating topics are truly endless in the social sciences. So now I want to invite Frank Cormier, instructor and department head for Sociology and Criminology, to share more about their department and the wonderful things you can learn there. Frank?
Thank you, Heidi. Good afternoon, everyone. First, I'm going to confess that I find this very strange that I can't see any of your faces. I'm looking at the faces of my colleagues and a screen in an office. So I'm here to talk a little bit. First, I'm Frank Cormier. I'm the head of the Department of Sociology and Criminology. And what is sociology is a question that I'm asked very often. We're becoming a little bit better known in recent years, but there's still many students and well, everyone who really haven't heard of it or don't know exactly what it is. And one question I've never heard is, what is psychology? Tell me what this psychology is all about. Most people, I think, seem to have a pretty good idea of what psychology is. So I often use that to try to compare and contrast a little bit. and to try to explain better what sociology is. So sociology, from the Latin roots of the word, it's the study of society. So it's a scientific, social scientific approach to studying society and the groups of people that make up society. Now, we are concerned with studying human behavior, human social behavior. Many of you might know that psychologists are also concerned with human social behavior. The main difference between the two is sort of the focus that we take. So whereas psychology takes more of an individual focus, they look at individuals or very small groups of people. Sociologists look at the larger groups of people in society, right up to entire, the societies of entire nations, or even the global society, if we can say that there is such a thing. So I often summarize it by saying psychologists, when looking to explain human behavior, they look in here. They look in individual thought processes and brains and all kinds of things like that. Whereas sociologists, we look out, you can't see my hands, but out here. So what are the influences and the things that are coming from our environment, our social environment, that help to determine our behavior and what we do and where we end up in our lives? So rather than an internal individual focus, we take an external group focus. So when we think about our lives, we are rarely alone in the world. And if we think about the ways we behave while we are alone versus how we behave with the different groups that we belong to, we can see the social influences on us. Very few of us listen to what our brain says, what it suggests we might do, what we want to do, what we would like to do, and always immediately follow that impulse. All of those thoughts we have, those impulses, those psychological factors, are then mediated and filtered and constrained to a certain extent by our social environment. So if you think about an average day, you get up in the morning and you might be with your family or your roommates or somebody else that you happen to live with. And then in a normal year, you might go off to the university campus and you go to your classes and you're with your fellow students and your friends and you interact with your instructors. Later in the day, you might go to your job. So you go do your shift at some place where you work and you're with your coworkers and you're with customers, perhaps, if you're in the service industry. After work, then you might go out with friends, go out for dinner, go to a club. If you think about all of those places that you go in the course of your day, you're taking your brain and your individual self. You are the same. You're the same person going to all those places. But if you think about it, I bet you will realize that you might behave quite differently depending on which social situation you find yourself in. So that's one very simple way to sort of see the power of the social forces that are around us and how our social environment can influence our life, affect our behavior, and all those kinds of things. We like to talk about free will. We're often told that humans have free will and we can choose to do whatever we want in our lives, and the things that happen to us and where we end up and whether we're successful or not, whether we end up, as the Prime Minister of Canada or locked up in jail, that is all up to us. It's all free will. And we do have some amount of free will, but a sociologist will tell you that some might go so far as to say that free will is it's a fallacy. It's not true that we have this free will that some people tell us we do. And while we do have some free will, we do have control over our lives to a certain extent. There are many, many powerful social forces that are acting upon us. And that's one of the most fascinating things about sociology, is that we learn about those forces and we can try to employ them in our lives. You'll see a little quote at the end of this slide from Pierre Bourdieu, who's a social theorist, and saying the difficulty is to think in a completely astonished and disconcerted way about things you thought you had always understood. And we often call that seeing the strange in the familiar, because sociology really is the study of the things that we're living every single day of our lives and all the things around us. So they're very familiar to us. But what we have to learn as social scientists is to find the odd things about that and break out of our everyday assumptions. So these are things that we know. We all have families. We all have conversations. We see the laws, we know there's rules we have to follow. We see a government that tells us what to do sometimes, and we don't like some of our governments, but we don't necessarily think about them in any great depth. That's what we do in sociology. Now, criminology is just one of the several subfields of sociology. So it's a social science. It's interested in human social behavior, but one very specific kind of human social behavior, which is deviant, or specifically criminal behavior. And Edwin Sutherland, an American criminologist working in the United States back in the 1940s, actually came up with what I think is one of the best definitions of what criminology is all about. And again, it's looking at crime as a social phenomenon. So we are not detectives. We are not crime scene investigators. We are not profilers. All the things you see on TV, we're not those. I don't think there's any television shows about actual criminologists. So we study the social phenomenon of crime with the focus on, as you can see on the slide, making laws. So we have to think about where our laws come from, because the fact is we wouldn't have crime if we didn't have laws. Unless there were rules to be broken, we can never have breakers of rules. That was very elegantly put. So we look at where our laws come from. Who gets to make the laws? Why do we have the laws that we have? Which is something a lot of people don't think about. Because who makes the law is a very important question, because what the law looks like can be very, very different depending on who makes the law. The short answer to that question is that's who makes the law, and has historically. Not me individually, but people who look like me. Basically, upper middle class, middle-aged men are the people who make the laws. And so we have to think about the values and the things that different groups of people hold, and that could be reflected in the laws that they make. Most of our time we spend looking at the breaking of laws, which is where we try to figure out why some people break laws, because then we can try to do something about that, try to prevent people from breaking laws. Or at worst, they break the law and then we have to figure out what to do, and that's the reacting to the breaking of laws. So those are the main areas of study in criminology, if that's something that you go into. As I said, criminology is one of the subfields. There's a lot of interest in it. So we do have separate degrees in criminology, but there's many other subfields because sociology touches on, again, basically every aspect of our lives. So we look at aging, another very important topic nowadays as our society in North America grows older. We look at sociology of gender. How does being a certain gender in a given society affect someone's life, their life chances, their employment opportunities, all those kinds of things. Same questions for the sociology of health. Where we come from, who we're related to, our socioeconomic status can all be related to how healthy we are. We study cities in urban sociology. We're looking at environmental issues and how human behavior in human groups can affect the environment and the planet that we all live on. We look at political sociology, not in as great a depth as the political studies department, who you'll hear from later, but again, because these do overlap in many different areas. We look at sociology of education. How do universities operate? Primary schools, high schools, those kinds of things. And as it says there, the list is virtually endless. Our degree programs we offer in sociology, you can see we offer all 5 of those degrees. In criminology currently, we offer the 3-year general major and the 4-year honors. We will, in the fairly near future, also be offering the double honors and the advanced major in criminology as well. So you're in your first year, so by the time you get there, those might be available to you as well. These are just some of the common courses. Everybody, if you're in your first year, if you're interested at all in sociology or criminology, you would need to take Introduction to Sociology. If you're thinking about the honors program, you might have a look at this critical issues in sociology. There's sociological theoretical foundations for different degrees. You can look all those up. Everyone in their second year normally will take the Introduction to Research Methods. That's where we teach you how do we do the science in our particular discipline. So you learn the tools and the methods that we use. Then we have a course just called Criminology, which is a second-year course, which is the Introduction to Criminology, which is required for the crim degree. And then Criminal Justice and Corrections, also a second-year course, which all criminology majors would take. You can see on the slide a few of the interesting courses we offer. This is only a very small sample. Sociology through film. We look at urban life, ethnic relations, religion, the body, media, mental disorders. Under criminology, there are also fascinating things that we look at. People who make careers out of being criminals. Criminal law and procedure. A lot of our students are very interested in that if they're thinking about going to law school after a bachelor's degree. We look at crime and criminology around the globe. We look at victims, the relationship of women in crime and social justice and feminist criminology, policing, and of course the criminology research practicum, which is a course that I teach. And that's where we place students out in agencies and they carry out research projects. That's an upper level course. So keep that in mind as well. We talked earlier about the universal skills that social sciences can offer, and I won't list all of those. I'm going to jump right to the end and talk about a little bit about self-understanding. And self-understanding and social understanding is how I would characterize those things. And when you can see and identify and analyze and then understand all of the social forces that I talked about before that are influencing you and that can tend to push you and pull you in different directions, when you understand those, you can mitigate the negative effects and you can maximize the positive effects, which allows you to reach your own ambition. I don't want to make this sound terribly selfish, but it can allow you to sort of use the society you live in to the best effect for the things that you want to do. At the same time, it also makes you a better citizen, someone who's better able to contribute to the overall society and to help. So we can help others and we can also help ourselves. And that's one of the most important things, I think, about what we call the sociological imagination, about looking at society in a unique way. One of the hardest students I have to answer is when students ask me what kind of a job can I get with a sociology or a criminology degree. And I wish there was just one. I wish there was one job that everybody, that's what you would go and do. But there's not. And so that's the good news, is that there's virtually unlimited jobs where our graduates find themselves. Some go into law enforcement, some go into mediation. Many end up working for various government departments, whether the provincial or the federal government, doing research, acting as policy analysts, providing services to clients. People are involved in foreign service, working with young people, working with older people, working with sick people, working with victims of crime, all of those kinds of things. So keep looking, look at all the different career information that the university provides, and you can think more about some of the careers that are open to you. But it's, a degree in sociology opens virtually an unlimited number of doors.
Thank you so
Looks
much.
like that's it for me. So I hope you're thinking of questions to ask at the end, and I'll speak to you later.
Thanks so much, Frank. We really appreciate that. Now I'd like to invite Dr. Terry Jansen, Professor for Linguistics, to tell us about his department. Terry?
Thank you, Heidi. It's a real pleasure to be here and talk about linguistics with you. I know that for a lot of people, you might not know what linguistics is at all. You might never have heard the term. You might have heard it, but not really know what it is. You might confuse it with just the study of some language or something like that. But hopefully what I'll be able to say today will tell you a little bit more about what linguists do and what we do in the linguistics department. So basically, linguistics is the study of language. Not necessarily the study of some particular language, although in certain ways we do that too. But we do things like look at what language is, and perhaps even what language is not. Very important to us is how we use it, how we learn it. And then we think about, when you're using language, what does it mean to use words, for example? What does it mean to use some grammatical construction? And how is it that when you say something, somebody else understands what it is you've said? Also important for us is how language varies across communities. So I liked what Frank had just said a few minutes ago about when you go into different kinds of situations in your day, you might behave a little differently. Well, you probably speak a little differently too in each of those situations. And so that is something that we call linguistic variation. And we like to try to learn a little bit more about why we speak differently depending on who we're talking to and where that conversation takes place. and what kinds of structural differences are there in your repertoire of language. We also are interested in how language changes over time, because every language does change over time. And sometimes you go through periods where language changes a great deal. And then we compare how languages differ in structure and use. Not everybody uses language in the same way, and not all language structures are identical. So in our department, we have these programs and degrees. We have the single advanced major, which is the 4-year degree, also the double advanced major. We have a general major, which is a 3-year degree and a minor. We don't have an honors program yet, but we hope to put that in place within the next couple of years. So once you move along through your degree, you may be able to get into our honors program as well. And then we also offer MA and PhD programs in linguistics for students who want to go on and do some more work in that area. There are lots of subfields, and I'll talk about them in 2 different ways. So first of all, it really depends on what kind of a theoretical approach you're interested in. And as first-year students, you might not really know anything about that yet, but that's something that you're going to learn about. So there are quite a few, and I'll just talk about 3 main ones. One is called generative linguistics, and it focuses on form. So sometimes we call it formal linguistics. That doesn't mean that it's kind of different from informal. It means that form is the interesting thing to look at. And so in that sense, we look at what the structure of language is, just in and of itself. But many linguists also consider themselves cognitive linguistics. And in this way, we're interested in conceptual structure and the ways that the way that we think about the world, the way that we conceptualize the world plays out actually in the structure of the language that we use. The third one is functional linguistics, which is a focus on interaction. And these linguists who work in a functional approach consider that interaction is the main way that structure in language evolves. It evolves because we use it interactively. So those are kind of 3 general theoretical areas, but then we have lots of subfields as well. We have sociolinguistics. So sociolinguistics has to do with how we communicate with each other and what those social circumstances look like that impact the language that we use. There's psycholinguistics, which has to do with the mind and the memory, our memory, no matter how good or bad, and how that interacts with language. There's computational linguistics. So this is often related to artificial intelligence on one hand, and also modeling. We do computer modeling of language systems. There are corpus studies. Corpus studies means that you gather a large amount of samples of language use. And this could be 5, 6, 7, 8 million words altogether. And once you put this together in a computerized corpus, you're able to search for things, to find trends in how people actually say things. Not what they should say, but how they actually do say things. And people who do corpus studies in linguistics consider this is one of the best ways to actually learn about what grammar is like from usage. And there's language typology, which looks at a certain structure or construction in language across many, many languages. Discourse analysis is another subfield where we look at, say, recorded conversations or narratives or something like that, and look at the structure of language within those particular kinds of events. For intro courses, we have a number. Linguistics has LING 1200, which is Introduction to Linguistics. And this is the one course that's required for a student to go on to any other 2000 level courses and above. So it's the main one you have to get into. This is the last year that it's a SPAN course, a 6-credit course. Next year, we're moving to a 3-credit course, and then there'll be some other options that you can take as well. We also have Languages of Canada, which is a broad look at what language use is like in Canada. So we look at French and English and some history there. We look at Indigenous languages. We look at new languages of Canada and the expanding profile of languages across the country. And also sometimes we include signed languages that are used in Canada. Another course is Language and Gender, and I'm sure that you're quite aware that men typically speak different than women speak. So we want to know what that's about and look at some of that. We also have Descriptive Grammar of Modern English, which is kind of like, what is English like? And it's a very popular course. We do have lots of very interesting courses, however, at every level. And so here I've given you a list of some of them, both at the first year, second year, and third year level. So in the first year, we have something called Indigenous Languages of Manitoba, which is a survey of what languages are used in Indigenous populations in Manitoba. The next one is words. What are words and what do they do? And you'll often find that words can surprise you because sometimes they don't behave very well. So we're interested in what that might be about. Also, language in the media. How is language used in the media to impact listeners and watchers and maybe influence them? Multilingualism at the second year is an important course for us because many people don't just speak one language but have more than one. And so how do those languages interact? When do you use them? Verbal art is also interesting because we use language creatively. At the 300 level, we've got some courses that explore very interesting aspects of language use. One is called the structure of ASL, American Sign Language. So in our department, we not only look at spoken languages, but we also look at signed languages. And so this is the course that introduces students to not to learn ASL, that's something else, but to try to understand linguistically how ASL is structured and then how it's used in the communities that use it. We also have a course, it's a new course for us called Language and Gesture. Everybody gestures, and we all understand that gesture somehow helps us communicate, plays into meaning, but how does it work? And what's its relationship to speech? And then another one that we're teaching this year, which I'm very excited about, is global hip hop linguistics. Certainly we can consider that hip hop has important cultural connections and identity connections. And so this course looks at this globally, right around the world, and examines how hip hop artists are using the medium and what their language use looks like in it. The last one I'll mention is that we do teach ASL, American Sign Language, just one introductory course, and it's a very popular course, and we are very excited to have that course taught within our department. There are lots of unique opportunities in the department for and outside for students who could work as research assistants with various professors. There's an active undergraduate student group, and there's a link for it there. We also have a graduate student association. And for many students who are interested in speech language pathology programs, quite often they'll get to have some experience on site in various places for that. Finally, some core skills. Basically, broad knowledge of what linguistics is about, understanding of the various parts of language production, language use, the ability to analyze language structures, and also experiencing language data in at least several languages. And I think that the last slide I have here talks about some sample jobs, but any job that has something to do with language, you're going to benefit from a linguistics degree. You could become a linguist, actually. But as I mentioned, speech language pathology, SLP, lots of our students go on to be language instructors. Lots of our students are interested in interpreting and translating. Some as lexicographers, which are like dictionary makers, for example. People are communication specialists, librarians, pay a lot of attention to language. And also there may be language research lab assistant positions in linguistics, psychology sometimes, and other places as well. And I think that's about it.
Thank you so much, Terry. Lastly, I'd like to welcome Dr. Royce Coop, Associate Professor and Department Head for Political Studies, to tell us about their department.
Okay, thanks a lot. I think that my job is probably a little bit easier than the last two presenters because this idea of politics doesn't require any introduction. You all know what politics is. You're interested in it, even if you don't realize it. You all know who Donald Trump is, for example. You might not know exactly what's going on. How can we explain what's happening down there? But you know who he is. And in the same way that older people, boomers, would sit in Tim Hortons and talk about politics, talk about political issues, talk about political actors and politicians, you do the same thing. You do it on Twitter, you do it on Snapchat, TikTok, on some other platform that I don't know exists yet. And so do we. Political scientists are interested in politics. We talk about politics. We're interested in the practice of politics in the same way that people on these platforms or in Tim Hortons are. But we're a little bit different in that we study politics systematically. Political science is about the systematic analysis of political activities, political thought, and political behavior, the sorts of things that people do in politics, that the different actors in politics do. So the kinds of questions that we address in the discipline of political science reflect that. I have some here. Why do states go to war? There are certain conditions. We know very clearly there are certain conditions under which states are more likely to go to war with each other. How can we prevent states from going to war? Armed with that knowledge, we know when states tend to go to war, we know how to prevent war as a result of that. What's the best form of government? This is a more normative question that we can still address systematically. There are other questions that apply directly to what's happening in the world right now. We know you've all seen civil unrest in the United States right now. What are the causes of that? What are the historical roots of that? And where is the United States going? The world is, the history of the world is full of examples of failed states, of failed advanced democratic states. Is that the direction that the United States is going in? Political scientists have a lot to say about that. What about Donald Trump, to refer back to him? How did he get elected? Well, we have some very good answers to that. And will he get reelected? Right now, as a lot of you probably know, Donald Trump is lagging in the polls, but there's very good reason to think that he could be reelected, even if he won fewer votes than the Democratic challenger, Mr. Biden. And that's a result of a lot of things, but in particular, the Electoral College in the United States. Those are the sorts of questions that we can tackle in a systematic way in the discipline of political science. So, like the other departments, we do have different degree options. We have a general major that's 3 years and an advanced major that's 4 years. You can minor in politics. And we also have a 4-year honors program, which gives you access to our 4th year seminars. Those students, or this program has gotten quite big in recent years. It's very popular. and our students are outstanding in the honors program. Okay, so we divide our discipline up into what are called subfields, and sometimes these subfields, there's some disagreement on what they are, but there's broad agreement that this is what actually makes up the discipline. In Canada, the first subfield, of course, is Canadian politics, the study of Canadian political institutions and actors and processes like Parliament, the Prime Minister, social actors, movements, and that sort of thing. If we were in the United States, this would be US politics. If we were in France, this would be French politics. Second subfield is comparative politics, the study of comparative institutions and actors. So sometimes political scientists study particular political phenomena like social movements, but they're not confined to national boundaries. So they study these across Canada, across France, across developed democracies, and this sort of comparing political phenomena across states can produce great insights. And this is the subfield of comparative politics, where you learn about the politics of different states and how they differ from our own. Indigenous politics has grown quite a bit in the last few years. We have a new subfield, the study of governance and social movements within this Indigenous politics subfield. International relations is interested in how states interact with each other, the rules that govern how states interact with each other. They go to war, they engage in diplomacy, as well as the organizations that are there to try to govern how states relate to each other. So this subfield deals with war, it deals with diplomacy, it deals with multilateral and bilateral organizations and all sorts of relationships between states. Political theory is political philosophy, the normative study of political phenomena. And finally, public administration is the study of how government actually works, how government is organized, and the people that actually staff government, not the politicians, but the civil servants. Okay, we have 2 3-credit courses in political studies. The first is 1502, our broad overview to the study of politics, the introduction to political studies. The second one is 1504. This is a survey of political studies that we offer in the winter. Our survey course is designed for people who know that they want to major or become honor students in politics. It provides a real introduction to the subfields of the discipline, so it goes into detail in all of those. So we tend to encourage people that are thinking about a major to take the survey of political studies, but everyone should take political studies, and everyone who takes it will enjoy it for sure. What cool courses we have in our department? Well, obviously all of them are cool. They're super cool. I think I wrote that in the presentation, but it got edited out before it came to you. 2 courses I had to choose: Introduction to World Affairs, Introduction to International Relations. They deal with relationships between states, and particular warfare. We have a real emphasis on strategic studies in our department, military studies in our department. But these courses will give you an introduction to that, as well as the theories that help to explain conflict and peace between states. We have courses on politics and film, on media and politics, on political parties, on social movements. There's a great diversity of courses to choose from. All right, we do have some unique opportunities for advanced majors and honors students. We have a brand new co-op program. So that would be available to you if you did enter one of those programs. We have an annual political studies students conference where we have a number of politics students who organize a conference, a 2-day conference that's quite a big deal. We have election viewing parties, also leadership selection viewing parties, which in some ways are even better than the election parties, but both are great. We have lots of guest speakers come in. We have a poster competition. We'll have a colloquium where we'll bring in external speakers, what to do with your degree in politics. It's an active department, and we certainly include our undergrads in those activities. There are awards, there's scholarships and bursaries in the department, as well as the undergraduate research award. You'll learn more about these elsewhere, but every summer we have a number of students that come and work with faculty members in politics with their research, and I've had several of these students myself. We also do have student groups as well. The Political Studies Students Association as well as this film club. I mentioned that class earlier. This is related to that. Okay. Oh, and speaking of this, so this is Laura. She was my summer research student. She won that undergraduate research award. She was one of our honors students. She's now doing graduate work in political science at another university. What to do with a politics degree? Well, the first thing that people think about, and the biggest thing that people do, is they go to law school. An awful lot of our honor students and the other students go on to law school. And the ones that I keep in touch with, they always say the exact same thing. They get to law school and they're sitting beside people that had never really thought about these substantive topics. When you come into political science, from the first day, we're talking about the law, we're talking about constitutions, about institutions, about human rights in general, about Indigenous issues, and it's an outstanding preparation for law school. And so those students that I talk to are always very satisfied with the choice that they made for a choice in their undergraduate degree. So this is a place where people really do end up. A lot of people aim to, and they end up in journalism. They go into public service. We actually have a Master of Public Administration program that we share with the University of Winnipeg that trains civil servants who want to work in the government. Many of our students go on to graduate work both here and elsewhere. They work for political parties. They work in legislatures of the House of Commons. You can work for interest groups, or you can do anything else. Heidi, or Dr. Marks earlier, talked about the idea of getting a liberal education and that equipping you for the work world. And political science, of course, is a great program for that in terms of its diversity, in terms of the different approaches to learning you'll encounter. You can go from a class on political philosophy and then the next block walk to a class on the use of statistics and quantitative methods in the study of politics. So it really is a great preparation for the work world in general, as well as these specific career choices. And I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Royce. Well, we hope that gives you a better understanding of the types of things you will study and learn in the Faculty of Arts, particularly in the social science programs, and where those studies could potentially lead you after your graduation. I reiterate, you've made a good choice entering the Faculty of Arts. It may seem like a very long way off now, but at the end of your time with us, when you earn your arts degree, you will be equipped to pursue a wide variety of exciting and challenging careers in today's changing world. Arts degree holders are in high demand. Our graduates have gone on to jobs in both the public and private sectors in areas such as media, government, marketing, social services, and technology, just to name a few. Here, we show you just a handful of occupations that may fit you and that you could do with an arts degree and some related work experience. And so this is in tandem with all of the career opportunities already spoken about by our presenters. You may find also that you'd like to continue your studies. Many students start at arts and use what they learn here as a base for a specialized degree such as law or education, or they may go on to a master's degree or a PhD. Your time here is what you make of it. There are many choices and opportunities, and we hope you enjoy it. I will now pass things back to Amber, who's going to take you through the final section of the presentation with some resources and reminders.
Thank you, Heidi. We have a few more slides and then we'll open it up for questions. So I'd just like to mention to everyone that even though you've already gone through your registration and you have your classes beginning next week, you may likely still feel like you're still in the planning stages of your degree. Which degree are you going to pursue out of the ones we talked about today? How many years? What will your major be? Should you choose a minor? And after hearing some of the speakers talk about the courses they offer today, do you have some new courses that are piquing your interest to fill those elective spots in year 2 and year 3? As we've mentioned, it's okay to not have it all figured out yet. A degree is an ongoing, evolving process, and you have tools and supports to help you navigate it. And we've got some resources to help. Did you know that in addition to all of the areas of study we covered today, we also offer courses in over 15 different languages? This is often an overlooked area by students, and we wanted to introduce you to our language offerings. We have options from beginner levels to advanced. You can then take your new language on a study abroad opportunity when those start up again, where you can use it and then improve it. We also have a language lab in arts with resources that are there to help you practice and apply your language skills. In this time of remote learning, we've developed ways to offer the lab tools to our students while they're studying from home. The lab also offers tutors to students who are taking language classes to help you practice and learn. You might decide to take a language just for interest or to help with a future career. There's two main ways to stay on top of your degree planning as you're going through your degree. Be sure to go back regularly and review the academic calendar. This is your guidebook. It's a degree and course catalog that helps you to see and plan out each year of study. You're also going to learn about a tool called Achieve. This is an online degree audit that does a lot of the same things the academic calendar does, but just in an online format. This tool also keeps track of what courses you've taken so far so that you can see that as well. Both tools help with your planning as they show you if you're taking the correct prerequisites for any future courses and track if you're fulfilling the requirements for your chosen major and degree. You can also connect with a Faculty of Arts academic advisor at any time to help interpret what you see in these tools. A link to both of these tools and to connect with an arts academic advisor can be found on our arts homepage, which is listed at the bottom of the slide. If you have questions anytime or during the year, we're here to help. The academic advisors are a trained team to help you navigate your academic options. They can help to plan your studies to prepare for future terms. They can discuss factors to consider when you're finally able to declare your major. They can help to keep you on track to meet those degree requirements. They can provide information on general services across campus and can give you advice to help enhance your overall university academic experience. I encourage you to contact the advisors if you're struggling or having difficulties, or you just don't know where to go to for help. They can point you in the right direction. I'd also like to point out that we do have an advisor available who specializes in queries for international students. To connect with an academic advisor while we're remote during the fall term, you can use email. And the email address is there on the slide. Please email them directly at that address with all of your questions. To continue to get yourself acclimated to the Faculty of Arts, we want to encourage you to visit our web pages where you can find information on the things we've covered today and much, much more. We'd also love for you to connect with us on one or more of our social media accounts. Follow along during the year to learn more about us, about the courses we offer, the amazing research being conducted by professors and students, and to stay on top of Manitoba deadlines. We always use our social media to remind you of key dates, to let you know about contests or other opportunities for students, and to share the stories of your fellow students and of alumni to give you ideas on majors to choose, career choices, and more. All of the student group accounts that you saw listed today on the slides were Instagram accounts, if you're looking for those. The Faculty of Arts has offered a few other sessions this week to help welcome you. All the sessions were recorded and are available online, so you can watch those anytime, even if you missed the live session. The link is there on the bottom of the screen, and I encourage you to take a screenshot for your reference. It's on the Prep Week page. Our humanities session on Monday introduced students to English, theater, film, and media, classics, and religion. Our interdisciplinary studies session on Wednesday covered Native studies, global political economy, German and Slavic studies, and labor studies. You can learn more about what professors are like and what they expect from first-year students if you go back and watch the Profs Are People 2 session. There were also a number of special interactive lectures from various faculties this week to help give you an idea of what online lectures are going to be like. Dr. Degon Sinclair from Native Studies and Dr. Ryan Giuliano from Psychology hosted 2 of these lectures. In their sessions, they also provided tips on how to take notes during an online lecture and how to get the most of your online studies this fall. There were also a number of sessions this week on academic writing, career services, introductions to many student communities, and the one on digital conduct that Dr. Marks mentioned. I encourage you to try to attend or go back and watch as many as you can to help get ready for the fall term. That brings us to the end of the formal presentation, and I'm now going to open it up for questions. Please again use the Q&A function. If you have any questions for any of our presenters about any of the areas, the courses that they talked about, or if you just have questions about orders of taking classes, anything like that, we're here to answer them while you're here. As questions start to come in, I just want to remind everyone, type it in. And we'll get to those. If you have a question that's not about the topics today, please go to umanitoba.ca, use the search feature or the Ask U Manitoba button where you can type in your question and you'll get a digital response back for that. I'm going to check the Q&A box now. So we have one question to start with. Frank, this one's for you. What does a criminologist do on a day-to-day basis, and how do you become a criminologist? So maybe, I know that's a kind of a long answer, but maybe on a shortened basis, you can give us a couple of points for that one.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So a criminologist, well, it depends what job the criminologist is in. So a person with a criminology degree might end up in many different places. So someone called a criminologist, I am a criminologist because I do a great deal of research and writing, and I teach in the field of criminology. Someone with a criminology degree could be doing anything from, being a police officer to working in government policy and writing reports. So there is no one criminologist job. Again, that's a big difference from what we often see in popular media. So a person with a criminology degree does all kinds of different things on a day-to-day basis. Criminologist generally refers to someone like me who is an academic criminologist. So you would do, studying crime and criminals and writing and conducting research.
Thank you, Frank. The next one, I'm going to take part of this, but also Royce, I'm going to ask you to jump in after I give some of the basics. We had a question just in general asking about what the co-op program is like. So one thing that I can mention before we talk deeper into that is that the co-op program is a degree program that you would choose as part of your degree program where you are alternating study terms with work terms, and these are paid work terms. So if someone is interested in a co-op program, we have it available in 4 programs right now, which is political studies, history, psychology, and labor studies. German and Slavic studies is hoping to come on board in about a year from now, and other areas are also looking into this. So it's not offered in every program in arts, but it is in a few. If you're interested in looking at a co-op program and doing that alternating work with study terms, we encourage students to consider and apply for that after their first year. And we do have a co-op office in the Faculty of Arts that helps to take you through that process of application, helping to look for a job and get matched to jobs for your different work terms. Now, Royce, I'm going to ask you for political studies, if there's anything you'd like to add in particular on how that, even though it's new, how's that working in political studies and what could a student potentially expect?
Well, I think a big thing to keep in mind is that you can't just go into the co-op, you have to be in the right program. So if you come into politics, if you're just a major, you can't do the co-op, you have to be an advanced major or an honors student. So that's a sort of a little detail and maybe you don't need to worry about now, but keep that in mind. A work term is great. You count it towards the degree requirements, but in the meantime, you get practical experience that you just don't get in the classroom. So one thing we're working on is trying to get students into MLA's offices, into their constituency offices. I mean, it's just impossible to learn about some of these political phenomena in a better way than actually being there and seeing these processes of representation take place. So that's just an example. The other big thing is that students do co-ops and they make ties with these organizations. And then when they're done, the people want to keep them. And so they go finish their degree and then a job opens up or they apply for it, and they already have an on the ground experience, and it's really invaluable. So definitely a good thing to explore if you're interested in it.
Thank you. I have another one here that's related to political studies. Somebody who's already thinking about master's studies. If they're looking at a master's, how many courses do you look at typically registering for per semester when you're in a master's program?
For the MA, I think it's 3 a term. I have to go and double check. It's either 3 or 4. With the master's degree, you can in our department, you can either write a thesis. Actually, this isn't starting until next year. You won't be doing this right away, so this will apply to you. You can either take fewer courses and write a thesis, or you can take more courses and not write a thesis. So you'd probably end up taking 3 or 4 a term. It's manageable.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Heidi, I'm going to get your help with this one. The question came in and says, what areas of study can students study abroad? And I know that the answer is virtually anything for our programs, but maybe you can help just to talk a little bit about even just the number of programs that we have with other universities around the world.
Yes, and the place to go for more information, just at the outset, is the International Student Center. They have a list of all the programs that you can participate in, or all the different universities with whom we have agreements. What you can study at a particular university really depends on what they offer in their arts programs that you could take to fulfill your requirements. And so there's a wide variety, and so it's sort of institution specific. But a lot of people, for instance, will, if they take a semester abroad, will travel and try to fulfill some of their degree requirements at the other institution. If you're looking for travel study opportunities, like in the summer, the Faculty of Arts has a few that are really fun and really quite outstanding. In suspension right now, of course, because of COVID, but we have a great travel program to universities in Germany, and then also some in the Ukraine. And so those are led by faculty at the University of Manitoba who take students there.
Okay, excellent, thank you. A couple quick ones relating back to political studies. The duration of a master's in political studies. Typically a 2-year program, or does that depend on the student? Sorry, you're muted, Royce.
Yeah, right now it's generally a 2-year program. Yeah. You can do it quicker if you want to, especially if you're doing the thesis option, but most students do it in about 2 years.
Okay, so here's a good question. They related it to a specific course, but this could relate to other courses in arts that have a lab section. The question is, what happens in a lab section for an arts course? The example they give is Paul's 1506.
Well, normally we have labs in 1502 too, but it's online. So I'm teaching that course. What I'm doing right now is I'm organizing these online discussions to be as close to a tutorial as possible. So our tutorial leaders are going to go in, and converse with students and answer questions and try to get as close to that as possible in a virtual setting. But in a real tutorial, there's nothing better. I mean, you are in a lecture with 200 people, and then you divide into a group of 20 where you get to discuss what the instructor talked about and bounce ideas off each other and argue with each other and come to a higher kind of plane of learning as a result of that. It's a big draw of our 1,000 classes, those tutorials.
Excellent. Thanks, Royce. So Frank and Terry, I'm going to ask you a little bit of a variation of another question that we have in here, because they are asking specifically about kind of a question about what are profs expecting of first-year students, and maybe a couple bullet points related to that. Now they list a couple of courses specifically. We can't speak directly to specific courses. One was political studies. Royce has already talked a little bit about kind of what those intro courses are about. But maybe Terry or Frank, if you could take a turn and can you give us a little bit more of an expectation or a couple of tips on what profs are going to be expecting of first-year students, especially in the first term for a first-year student?
Okay, I guess I'll take a stab at it. What we expect in general from a first-year student, one thing to remember is that we don't expect you to show up knowing anything about the subject that in the course that you're taking. I've actually heard from students who said, well, I don't know anything about sociology. And I said, well, great, that's, we want you. And that's what we're here for, is to teach you that. So, I mean, that's our job, is to introduce you to whatever field, whatever course that you're taking. Your job is to attend lectures, discussion groups, all of the scheduled things that we have this year, to do all of the assigned readings, to think about them, to ask questions when you'd like more information, to keep in touch with us. So really, it's hard to go wrong in your introductory year, as long as you do all of those things. Attend the lectures, do the readings, ask questions when you have them, take part in any discussions that you have a chance to take part in, and you're going to be just fine.
Excellent. Terry, can you have anything to add to that?
Sure. First of all, everything that Frank said, I think applies across the board. So linguistics is no exception there. As Frank said, we don't expect you to know anything, especially in the first semester. We're there to try to tell you something about what linguistics is about. And in our introductory course, we call it a survey course because we touch a little bit on as many of the topics in the field of linguistics as we can put into a semester. And so you're going to learn a little bit about a lot of things. In some of the other first year courses that are a little bit more specialized, like words or Indigenous Languages of Manitoba, of course, these are more specific topics, and these allow you to go into a little bit more depth on that specific topic. Because those are also first year courses, we don't expect any basics in linguistics. You can take it along with Introduction to Linguistics, but it's not a requirement. And so you can go into any of those first year courses with no experience in linguistics at all and learn a great deal.
Excellent. Thank you very much, panelists. That's all the questions that we have in the box right now. So I would just like to thank everyone for joining our session today. We really hope that we've given you the tools to get ready for the start of term and answered some of the things about what could you expect next week when you start with the Faculty of Arts. I want to thank all of our presenters, and I would like to encourage everyone to please continue to watch your UManitoba email and social media for regular reminders and information from your faculty. And in particular, you were sent an invite this morning with a link to join us on Tuesday, September 8th at 10:30 a.m. for our official Welcome Day session for new art students. So we hope that you can join us then. You'll get to meet the Dean and fellow art students to help welcome you before you start classes next week. So again, thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful day. I'm going to end the recording for the participants and end the session. Thank you.